Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com here with an ESO Dread Cellar guide. This is going to include all the bosses, hard mode, and the secret bosses. So I'm going to skip the trash pulls and things you don't really need to know. The first thing you need to know in this area is going to be access to phase 1 of the secret boss. This is very important if you're trying to clear all the hard modes. So what's going to happen is this area you're going to clear out all the trash. You're going to find an area where my character is going to right now that's going to have 2 braziers. You're going to need to find the 2 flames for the braziers, which I put here along with the entrance. 2 players are going to have to go grab the braziers with the synergy key, bring them over and deposit them. Once that is done, you'll be able to access the mysterious corridor. When you're down in the mysterious corridor, they're going to have 2 other things you're going to have to activate. 2 crystals, along with a portal that will spawn that will allow you access to the specific boss. Look at this map here. So 2 players activate them at the same time. A portal spawns and allows you to fight a secret boss. The secret boss in here is very important if you want to complete these on hard mode, because it's going to give you an added benefit. Once you come into this area where the secret boss spawns, you're going to have another mechanic with the 2 braziers. You're going to have to light it, bring it over to the yellow one. Once you get to the yellow one, then you activate the key, which will proc the secret boss. The secret boss is not very mechanic intensive. It's very simple, kind of like Black Drake Villa with a little bit of HP. You can't change the fire Atros in, but you can taunt them. So just simple stack and whack here, get it down. The purpose of getting this down is you're actually going to be able to summon this specific boss to aid you in the fights coming forward with the synergy that you already got, along with this status effect. Purgatory's Ascension, weapon and spell damage increased. You're going to be able to summon this on your command for 1 minute. And the most important part about this is it will summon and resurrect allies and shield allies with bolster. So this is like an oh crap button in the boss fights to come. Go ahead and continue on and we'll make it all the way to the first boss and activate hard mode. And the first thing I want you to pay attention to is that exact crystal that we just unlocked. It's on the clear opposite end of the fight. And so when you're in trouble or you need a little extra boost, this is when I'd grab it. So I'm going to play from the perspective of a tank. This boss is very tough with hard hitting, heavy attack, damage over time, debuffs. It's just nasty. Kind of reminds me of Veladreth. First mechanic up here is an AoE cleave, common sense stuff, pointed away from the DPS and the healer. Otherwise, they will absolutely get wrecked. This will also blow through your stamina pretty quick, so you need to be cognizant and make sure to block or use a frost staff and block with magic. Next thing up, we're going to have some adds that spawn. The Bone Colossus is your priority target, and try to stack everything on the range if you can. But it's starting to get nasty with a lot of ground effects on the ground. The Bone Colossus is priority on the adds because it will one-shot your DPS. Another mechanic here, the boss is going to look up in the air, shoot up like a red portal, and jump through it. What's going to happen is it's going to summon a crystal that needs to be taken out immediately. So it could be spawned pretty much all over the map. And we find it here, clear in the top left, and it will also spawn a couple more adds. The Daedroth on the right is very similar to what you'd experience in VMA, Maelstrom Arena, with a very hard-hitting damage over time fiery breath that if you leave it up, it's going to be a lot to deal with. So DPS are going to rotate to the crystal, and you as a tank are going to have to deal with this fire breath. So keep a defensive ultimate if you need it. You'll want to position yourself close enough to the healer where the healer can help the DPS in a pinch and also help you. So we're going to keep on working on the adds. The DPS is going to work on the crystal. I'm going to maintain, and the boss comes back to me, and here's another mechanic. It's basically going to do a laser beam from the top of it, and you're going to need to bash it. The faster you bash it, the better. So when you see that big right glow, make sure to bash right away. Something that helped our group out is having Crushing Shock Magic Sork, because it's not just the tank that is responsible for this bash, along with these big, huge red circles. Very, very hard shooting out in an AoE 360, so they're kind of hard to avoid, especially if you're a melee DPS. So everyone should be aware of the bash mechanic coming from here on out, and you can also have a healer slot Crushing Shock as well, because bang, if I'm not right on top of it to bash it right away, it will be a one-shot and someone will die. So you're going to continue on like this, encountering the crystal and a bunch of adds. It's very hard to taunt all of them at the same time. As you can see, there's 4. 3 of them are melee and 1 of them are range. So ideally stack on top of the range if you can, and the ground and your resources allow it. And those are pretty much all of the mechanics that are in this specific fight that are of note. So rely on the synergy in the back right corner from where you spawned, because in a pinch, if someone goes down, it becomes very, very handy. We actually don't use it in this one because we've done this fight quite a few times, so we wanted to see if we could do it without. That's going to add a lot of damage per second, and it's going to have a synergy that you can use to shoot down a bunch of damage as well. This is going to be a foreshadowing of what's to come in the later fight. Specifically, the Scorion is a lot to deal with. So the damage over time, you're going to have to find a way to deal with it as a tank. You'll see another theme throughout this dungeon as well is constant bash and interrupts. So another thing I would suggest doing is I'm using the Frost Destructive Clinch because I like the major maim that it gives me as a tank, but you might want to slot Inner Rage or Inner Beast, whatever morph you want to go with. Reason being is you really need a lot of range because the mobs and the adds spawn clear across. Remember to prioritize the Daedroth along with the Bone Colossus #1. Stack on top of the range if you can. Also, don't forget to position yourself as best as possible in between the crystal so your healer can heal you along with the DPS. It's a lot to deal with as a tank, and you're going to blow through a lot of resources, which is why I'm using Engine Guardian. So right there, we didn't do a good job of bashing and interrupting, and you can see one of our party went down. That's okay. You can recover pretty easily from this fight, assuming the adds are not overwhelming you. So what you need to do is either use the synergy or coordinate or res, but you can recover from this specifically. So what I usually do on tanking this is make sure that I save a Magma armor or something really, really, really survivable defensive ult, just in case that happens. Now, coming up here, you're going to see an example of me not doing a very good job and taunting the adds as they come in, because a Bone Colossus is going to come from our left-hand side and just clip one of our DPS. So I'm focused on the bash, and boop, dang, dead. So make sure that you prioritize taunting that. And again, the range taunt that comes from Undaunted is very, very helpful here if you are tanking this, because they're going to be all over the map. And 15 meters with a Destructive Clinch is not enough sometimes. Also, I'd highly recommend when you're learning this fight to make sure you prioritize your ultimates for survival along with selfish, resource sustain, healing, and off heals. There's really no DPS mechanic that you have to burn through in 15-30 seconds or so. So essentially, you can take your time, clearing out the adds, making sure you kill the crystal right away, taking your time because there is no DPS check. So spec towards survival first, then take the training wheels off once you understand the mechanics and you know what's going to happen. As you become more familiar with it, now you're going to start doing aggressive war horns and other things to really burn down the house. But this one is very, very tough. It's also tough for melee DPS, and everyone needs to be aware of that bash mechanic because that will ruin your party and end your day for you. So make sure your entire team is able to bash because it's not just up to the tank. And that's pretty much the fight. After you finish this boss fight, you'll make your way through a couple of hallways, a couple of trash pulls into a room like this. And this room is going to have another set of braziers, and you're going to have to hit the synergy and bring the fire to them. So this one in particular has not 2, but 3, along with a door that you're going to need to unlock first. So what I'd recommend doing is making sure you find the braziers, unlocking the door, getting it prepped, and then kind of run a little relay race with your 3 folks that are carrying the braziers to unlock the secret chamber. Down here, it's going to be more of the same. So you're going to have 3 crystals. You're going to have to simultaneously click at the same time, which will spawn the portal. Here's where we found the crystals. So make sure you count it down. 3, 2, 1, clicky, clicky. This is what one of the crystals look like, Defentress Matrix Shard. You're going to click that and go into another portal, which, you guessed it, it's going to have 2 braziers. Grab the 2 braziers, bring it over here to the blue, activate it, and then you'll get another boss. The boss here is like a lich, very similar to some other bosses you've already faced, Crypt of Hearts and many others. Nothing really going on that's out of the ordinary here. It has a lot of ads, so just make sure to taunt the ads if they're pressuring your DPS, and this will be able to be spawned going forward as well. So now you'll have 2 synergies, 2 panic buttons, if you will, for these upcoming fights ahead, making it very useful. This will increase your magicka and stamina recovery by 200. So make sure to use this and keep it on your mind, and you can use it especially if you need a res or some boosted damage. So we're going to keep on moving through, and we're going to go to the next boss, which is a very, very hard one, especially for me, the tank. A lot of mobility needed on this one. It was a very hard one to learn. So you'll see 2 Atros in the boss. You're going to taunt both of them and get ready for a lot of mechanics that are very hard hitting. So for these 2 Storm Atros, the best thing to do is kind of stack them on top of the boss, AoE cleave them down. Just note they will come back, so this is not just a one-time kill. They're very annoying, and it's hard to get the bashes because it happens so quickly. So just be aware, they're going to be around, you're going to have to deal with them. Now comes the tricky mechanic. You can see the red waves coming towards you. Also, an NPC will verbally have an audio cue that will kind of post up and put this big thing up in front. This will block the waves. So you as a party need to keep your head on a swivel and watch where that is. Also, if you stack towards the rear of the encounter, you'll get more time to deal with the waves. So that's what I highly recommend. You can actually put yourself up against the wall too, which I'll get to a little bit later. So we see that coming, so it blocks the wave. Another thing you're going to have to deal with is the bolt worm. This will slow you down, so the person that it's attached to has to kill it. Yes, even you as a tank. So heroic slash is what I do with a pierced armor, and it's enough to get it down. But now you have Atronox, you got red lines, you have an NPC to listen to, and you have bolt worms to slow you down. As you can see, this is a lot to deal with. And now you got another mechanic, which is a big, huge thing that's going to be placed on you. Once it stops and procs, it'll stay there for a while. So you're going to want to move out of it, drop it somewhere where it's not inconvenient for your party, and you're just going to have to make your way around this. So I'd highly recommend some mobility tool. You can get Major Expedition from your chains as a Dragonite, or you can use Elusive Mist, or you can use Race Against Time. But a lot of mobility. Stack here. Here comes another mechanic, and this is a hard one to deal with. This is an ideal time to burn the boss, and it's going to shoot out these huge skulls, which you see. These are a one-shot unless you dodge them. So this is what the skull looks like, kind of slowed down. Our friend in the Sorky Porky got nuked down by these. So do not try to block, bash, do anything but dodge them if you can, or you're going to get deleted. So I do exactly the wrong thing, which is kind of just try to face tank it, Dragonite style, and boom, I get deleted. But this is where the synergies come into play. You can hit one, pop both of us up, and everyone gets a damage shield. So he pops it up. We got the Purgatory active. I'm going to make sure I taunt the boss. There's going to be a lot of little ads to deal with, so change them in if you're a Dragonite, and you're going to see that NPC in the corner. So you're going to have to keep your eye on the NPC because the flame waves, or whatever you want to call them, are going to continue to come. So I'm going to stack them here all together. My head's on a swivel, looking to the right, and then hit that synergy key. Will proc a lot of damage from that specific ad that's helping you. I'm going to do Warhorn here just to try to get this stuff down. You always see I'm peeking to the right to see where those waves are. The bolt worms are your #1 priority. Even you as a tank are going to have to deal with them. So make sure those get down right away. And you're just going to kind of hang out here, doing as much damage as you can, trying not to put those big, huge circle balls on there. We did try to dodge roll through these red lines. It worked on the initial phase of the PTS, but it does not work now. If you get in trouble, you can actually hug up to the wall, and it will not kill you. The red lines will not kill you. So it's kind of a cheesy last stand thing you can kind of do, but the red little orbs will be placed on you, so it won't last forever. But if you get in trouble, park next to the wall. It did work for us. So those are basically the mechanics. There are a lot to deal with, especially if you don't have mobility as a tank. So you're going to have to probably slot something, especially if you're not mobile. You're going to have to deal some damage to the bolt worms, and you're going to have to keep an eye visually on where things are. A lot of these ads will harass your DPS and healers, so it's a highly recommended to either taunt or change them in. And now you can actually 100 to 0 this boss to start if you have really, really high DPS. I'd highly not recommend it, especially when you're getting to learn this. So look at the NPC, look and turn the subtitles on if you can't hear it audibly, because it will help you listening to the NPC for their command where they put up the wall. And then you're going to have to kind of be aware of it. You can park it right in the center or towards the rear, which will give you a little bit more time to deal with the walls. When we were dying and learning this fight, it really was the bolt worms that were the biggest problem. And we kind of learned that, oh, the DPS can't just be the ones that nuke them down. Even me, the healer or the tank, has to hit them a couple times. As you can see that bolt worm on me right there. I do a couple dodge and it will reattach to someone else if you don't kill it. Or just bash it, do whatever you can to get that thing down. Red skulls are out. We got to dodge roll these puppies. So until you learn the telegraphs, pull back a ways because you're going to get more time with that telegraph if you're further away from the boss. Very simple geometry here, but it does matter when you're learning the fight. So during the red phase, drop the house in the center and or pull away. We had a couple people down because of the ads. There's a lot to deal with. So I'm just going to hit that last synergy. And this is where it comes in really, really handy. So hit it. We got 2. So I'm just going to save them until someone goes down. And that's when we use them. More stuff going on. We got the 2 ads about down. Boss is about down. I can't stand this fight as a tank. I just want this done. And fortunately for us, we got her down. But we're not done. Now we got another secret area. And we're going to be 4 braziers that we're all going to have to grab, including good old me, and run it to one location, deposit it, and get access to another secret boss area. So this is what it looks like. Grabbing the brazier, hit the synergy key. I'm going to run my little tank butt as fast as I can all the way over here, and there's the secret door. Boom. Now we got access. Same thing down here. There's going to be 4 crystals. One's clear in the back, which is kind of tricky to find, but look at this map here. Should tell you all 4 of them and where we found the crystals. Count it down. Click the crystals at once, and you should have access to the final boss to help you, which you'll need every ounce of help you can get for this last boss. Last boss up, you're going to activate the white crystal, which is going to spawn it. This one is a little bit harder to deal with, and what I'd recommend is making sure to range taunt the ads, or they will harass your DPS and a healer, and then you'll have this whirling mechanic here. You can eat it if all your buffs are up, but I just highly recommend kind of side skirting it. Keep the boss parked in the same spot if you can. That way the DPS can have as much uptime as possible. And you're really just kind of line of sighting that big, huge whirlwind that's going around along with the boss's mechanic. But this really isn't too bad. But it will give you the synergy that we desperately need along with an extra buff. Once this is complete, now you'll have access to 3 synergies that will res allies during the boss fight. And this specific one is going to last for 1 minute. It's going to increase max health by 2,000, which is going to be very handy and needed for the next boss. So now we're going to keep on moving and get to the last boss after a couple more rooms and corridors, and we're going to activate the hard mode and get ready. This is one of the longer boss fights in the game and one of the harder for 4-mans that I've experienced. So it's going to take some time to get this down, and it sure did for us. So hang in there. You can do this. Next is going to be the first mechanic, which is a bunch of little scamps that are going to proc heat waves at your feet and or allies. These are not priority over the boss, but you can change them in and lock them in place on top of the boss, kind of increasing your DPS. Next up, we're going to have one of the most painful mechanics, which is going to target 3 people at random, up to 4 later on. It's going to shoot a big fire wave after about 2.5 to 4 seconds, and this is going to need to be dodged, blocked, or avoided at all costs. You also do not want to stack on top of each other, or it's going to be a one-shot, especially if you're a DPS. You're going to encounter this throughout the entire fight. So you're going to see our DPS kind of spread out, and I'm going to take care of the scamps, kind of park them on top, and it's going to leave a red circle that, yes, does damage throughout the room, so make sure not to park it in an inconvenient spot, or you're going to have to deal with it. Next up, you're going to see a kind of purple or reddish, whatever your tint is, and this is going to be a big, huge AoE damage. If you're the tank, you can eat this. If you're DPS and healer, it's not advised, so make sure to get back. This is why you want to park the boss closer to the edge, if at all possible, so you can keep up the DPS. Next, there's going to be fire tornadoes, because why not? These will do damage to you, so move away from the boss. Try to avoid these if you're melee or anyone else. So you have a bunch of stuff on the ground already. You have fire tornadoes, and it's going to get heated up even more. Also, the boss will do a big old heavy attack. So if you're the tank, you're going to need to avoid this, or it's going to be a lot to deal with. And more of the same here, and we're going to get a couple more mechanics coming up. At around 70%, and I think about 35%, you're going to get an extra mechanic where you're going to have to go into a door, a portal, and deal with a specific ad. So that's what we're going to have to get to next. And where this is right where I'm facing right now, to the upper left. So this is going to have to be placed by the boss, or you're going to have to sprint over there. So that's kind of why we chose to fight it here, because it's just a little bit of ways away, and you hit the synergy key, which will show you that you have to get in there and deal with a specific ad. So it's a very long encounter, and it's hard for the tank, especially on the when you go in the portal and come out. This is the hardest thing to practice. So you're going to get used to these flame and fire mechanics. I'm actually a vampire for this, so I can use elusive mist for the damage reduction, and that's what I use to learn this fight. You can use chains, race against time, anything, but it's very nice to have some mobility. You're also going to have a lot of damage, fire damage over time after that specific heat wave on you. So make sure a cleanse or something's going out, and you're going to have a lot of healing coming in, especially in the later parts of this fight. More of the same here, going to move out of the way, and your job as a tank is trying to make sure that the boss can be damaged by the melee if at all possible, and not to leave those circles at the most inopportune times. You actually can go back to where that portal is and try to cheese this mechanic, but we didn't have success with it. Now the NPC is going to spawn, you're going to hear a verbal cue, and you're going to have to come inside here and DPS this crystal down. Highly recommend hitting a war horn, drop in the house on this, because if you don't, it's going to empower the Scorion, making the boss immune to damage and basically life miserable. So we're coming in here, going to stack and whack. There's actually a bunch of different versions of this, so I can't show you all of them, but they're very simple mechanics. You might have to get out of fire, you might have to rotate a couple other ones, but this is the one that we got to clear on. So you can actually park on top of the light, which makes it a bit easier, or just all out nuke it. So we got that down, and now we can go back into the portal here, and you don't have to rush this, actually. It will drag you back at some interval. So coming out of here, we're going to have some more fun, beautiful mechanics, because why not? We are not done yet. You're going to have to do that phase one more time, so keep that in mind. What's going to be added is a big wave of fire along with that Scorion that we faced earlier, a little mini version of it, along with a very hard-hitting dot and a channel ability that you're going to have to deal with. So again, tank challenge. Here comes the heat waves. Now you'll notice there's a little gap in between the base of the pillar, if you will, and the heat wave. So that's where I park myself along with the boss. So now you got heat waves, flame tornadoes, things on the ground. This mechanic is next. You as the tank have to recognize this and stand in it, or it'll be a group wipe. So get in there, otherwise it's not going to go well for your party. Even if there's a bunch of red on the ground, that's priority number one, otherwise you'll all die. And we're probably 4 minutes in, 5 minutes in, we're still getting the mechanic, so I promise it's just about over. But more flame waves here, and we're going to park it over here. And now the real challenging part, the Scorion. This thing absolutely melts me as a tank. So I'd highly recommend trying to avoid it for the beginning of the encounter after you taunt it. You can use a combination of dodge rolls, cleanse, magma armor, defensive ultimates, elusive mist, a bunch of stuff. But the heavy attacks, if both the boss and that Scorion hit you with the heavy attack, it's going to be game over. Along with both of their fire dots and the Scorion dot, it's very hard to deal with. So I'm going to rotate via tripods, Magma Armor Ultimate, Defensive Ultimate, running Resto Ultimate to keep me up through this phase. So if we get this down, it's a lot easier, but the Scorion is the #1 thing to deal with. So even swapping a defensive set of gear, not powerful assault or something else, will make a big difference in surviving this. We just activated one of the synergies, and that's highly recommended as well. You can hit that synergy as soon as that Scorion spawns, and it will do a lot of damage with its synergy. But you might want to wait till someone goes down, especially the tank like me, because I had a lot of trouble learning this to start. So I landed and missed there, hit a magma coming out of it, and it's getting really low on HP, so I'm liking our odds to clear this one this time. We got flame waves, we got scamps, we got Scorion, we got a synergy. There's a lot going on, as you can sort of see, so it's very, very survival heavy. And that's what I recommend doing here is speccing as a team for survival. Because if you get this down, this is actually not that bad as long as the Scorions go down, and you're going to have to deal with it twice. So don't celebrate just yet. We're going to have to go deal with it again. Also, it is possible to do this with melee, but as you can see from this footage, it's a lot easier with range because you have the ability not to be all up on top of 5 to 6 different AoE ground effect nasty things on the ground. So right there, I did a poor job placing my flame pool on top of someone else. We might lose someone, and we did, because if you stack both of them on top of one player, it's going to be too much to deal with. So our healer went down because I did that. Now I'm going to stack and do the tank mechanic, otherwise it's a group wipe, and we can recover here. So as long as the Scorion's down, I'm pretty survivable independent of a healer, though it's nice, but you can survive along without the synergy. And keep in mind, if one synergy is activated, you can't do another. So if 2 people go down and the Undertaker or someone else is out, you can't go ahead and activate another. So there is some kind of strategy with when you activate that. When in doubt, when the Scorion comes out, it's very handy to activate it. But if someone goes down right away, it's going to be hard to recover with that Scorion out. You're going to have to spend 5 to 6 minutes getting back to the same spot. So I lose aggro here, and our melee DPS goes down because I did a bad job prioritizing the scamps instead of the boss. So lesson, prioritize the boss, not the scamps. But we got them down and we got it recovered. So you can recover as long as you're not panicking and the Scorion is not out. So you don't have to use a synergy. Remember, you have 3 of those synergies. You can hit twice when both Scorions come, or you can wait for this mechanic here and hit it, and it will help you get this crystal down, which can be very handy as well. So we actually do not get the DPS check met here in this stone, and in fact we don't allow it to be destroyed, so it actually empowers the boss. So make sure you use your Warhorn here to get this down, because if you don't, the last encounter is going to be absolutely miserable. So don't save that Warhorn, because it will empower the boss, making life miserable. And also make sure to pick up those ads, priority number 1. So we didn't make the DPS check, and we come out of here, and you're going to see that Scorion empower the boss, making this last little bit very, very challenging if it already wasn't. So lesson learned, don't save your Warhorn, any ultimates or DPS. You have to get that crystal down, priority number 1. And also make sure you park yourself by it, so when that transition phase happens, you're really well aware of it. So there's no new mechanics, but we ran into doing this for a bunch of hours when we were starting to learn was just maintaining your focus for this long can be a bit challenging, because you can recover from it, but certain phases of it are going to be very, very hard, especially if you're the tank. If you go down, it's going to be hard to recover from this. So it's challenging being able to maintain your focus for this long. But if you get past the Scorion, both of the Scorions, then it's just very simple mechanics throughout and just survival. There is no DPS check like Vatashram or something like that, meaning you don't have to speed through it. If it takes you 20 minutes to do this fight, it does. If it takes you 9, 5, whatever it may be, fine. But you can always spec heavily defensive while you're learning it. And that's exactly what we did. Running Earthgore, I'm not running Incarnate Behemoth, I'm not running all of the other abilities that I normally would to increase DPS, because I have to survive priority number 1. Once I've done this a bunch of times, I know the mechanics, and I got my build spec'd out and ready to go, well, then I'll change it up. But right now, it's a lot to deal with. And here comes our friend, the Scorion, and we're pretty low HP, so I'm going to pop my ult. I'm going to get in my mist form. I'm going to sit and have to eat this. So I'm going to eat a Scorion dot. I'm going to eat flame dot. I'm going to just have a whole heck of a lot of not fun. And so you got to make sure to maintain your focus and just heal up when in doubt. Dodge rolls are very handy here. You can avoid some of that cleave and AoE damage as well through the dodge rolls, but you're going to have to watch your stamina, especially if you're blocking. So that's why I spec heavy resource intensive on this tank. Also, Expert Evasion is a very handy CP passive, especially if you dodge roll as much as me. Also consider taking a Frost Staff and making sure that you either use magic or stamina to block. That's also through the Destruction Staff passive, the very first one. So you can kind of alternate between pools, making sure you have something to block with and a heal on one or both of the bars. So right there, I stood in crap, I ate a heavy attack, and I got nuked. But we have one last synergy left, so we're able to recover this, thankfully, because I did not do a good job of my positioning and just ran out of focus. So I'm going to grab the Scorion here, and we're getting pretty low on the Scorion, and we got one person down. Thankfully, I have my ultimate up, so I'm going to taunt the boss, do my tank mechanic here, and I got a Magma. Magma is very helpful for the other group members as well, getting a shield. And now it's just survival mode. Oh, using that synergy for extra DPS, making sure we get our allies up and just surviving. So you as a tank are going to have to be pretty tanky, no pun intended. And if someone goes down, you're going to have to be able to recover. So Magma armor again, along with potions. I'm using Drake's Rush as well for my armor set. So I'm constantly generating tons of ultimate for myself and the group. And we're going to stack and whack right here. If we can get the Scorion down, I'm pretty confident we can get this done. Well, I know we get this done because I was there. More of the same once again. Also, since we're 20 minutes deep in this fight, Revealing Flare, Major Protection, you can slot that on both bars. That's going to be very, very good. If you're watching this and not aware, it's an Alliance War skill that will give you Major Protection simply for slotting it. So double barring that if you want, along with a heal on each bar, is very useful for a tank. Again, the range taunt isn't as necessary here, so the 15 meters with Destructive Clinch I prefer over Inner Rage, but that can help you if things are getting away from you, which it did a couple times. But it's really just a very, very long fight. You have to maintain your focus for a long time. Even at a couple percentage, it still has 1,000,000 health and 1,000,000 things going on. So hang in there. If I can get it done, you can get it done. And the only downside of this is this was on the public test server, so I had to do it all over again a bunch of different times on the live server. Yay! But that's what makes PvE great in Elder Scrolls Online is this is really next level dungeon 4-player content. It's super hard. Visually, it's striking. It's one of my favorite dungeons in the game, and it's an achievement to beat this puppy. There's all sorts of cool bells and whistles that you get, titles, all sorts of stuff. So we got this new title here. And we got a cool screenshot because, of course, we did. And then you get this memento. It looks like a campfire with different colors. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of this. It took us a lot of time and energy to get this done. But if I can do it, I'm confident you can too. Thanks again.